Parker Alexander of Keeping It Honest. And that is what we try to do. Unlike Bernie Sanders, say it ain't so, Bernie. Just when we thought that we could count on at least one politician to be honest over the years, it seems like we are always getting disappointed. I saw this story because I thought it was interesting. Saw it, New York Post put it out there. There haven't been any real news, mainstream media. There's been some social media talking about it, but a lot of people have said, why isn't anybody talking about it? Bernie Sanders, if you don't know, is a older guy in his late 70s, early 80s, who fights for the people. And he was an independent at one point as far as independent thinking. And what surprised me this year was when he recently endorsed Biden. And myself, like others, said, okay, here's a guy that ran on, hey, I'm different, I'm for the people. I don't really want to be considered a Democrat. And now he's backing Joe Biden instead of running again, because there is an opportunity for a lot of people to run. So he's been doing a couple things in the news recently where people were just questioning his sincerity as far as being for the people. AOC used to be like that. She came out very aggressive saying, I'm for the people. And now you really don't hear anything about her. She's just kind of quiet. And my thinking and other people's thinking is that, she decided to be mainstream because trying to be that Lone Ranger, I can tell you from my experience, is hard to do. So I was surprised and disappointed when I read this story. Bernie Sanders, listen to this, wired $200,000 in campaign money to family nonprofit organization. And you know what that organization was? It was his family organization. So his campaign committee wired $200,000 early this year to a nonprofit established by his wife and her stepson. And this is what the filings have shown. So the Friends of Bernie Sanders made the payment to the Sanders Institute in two installments of $100,000 in January and March. And this is according to the Federal Elections Commission. And so I went on the site and looked it up and found out that this is true. So those outliers are the latest targets from the pro-Sanders committee. So you wonder if here's a guy that talks about big businesses and he doesn't support big businesses, but yet we're finding out that he did get money. So the senator's wife, Jane Sanders, and a stepson, David, they co-established the think tank and unveiled it publicly in 2017. And this is when Sanders started rising, where you hadn't really heard about him. He'd been around for years, decades. And then you see this old guy fighting for the people. He was loved by African Americans and loved by young people. So not much is known about this think tank, which is very interesting. I've been on his website. It looks like it's there to help people. But the more you hear about it, the more you find out that's not true. So the group's website, it primarily consists of links to articles on other outlets by fellows like Labor Secretary Robert Range. And it's interesting because I found out that when you go on the site and then you look at where did Bernie Sanders get this $200,000 from, he got it from the people connected to, begins with a W, Walmart, a big conglomeration. So here's a guy that's out there in the streets. He's asking for money for you to help him out. And the nerve of this guy getting $200,000, $100,000 a piece, twice, from people connected with Walmart. Now, how is he going to, one, How's he going to explain this? Because if you're giving him money to help him out, and then he's giving this money to this nonprofit organization, which he or his wife and his stepson technically own. So the money you got and gave to him, you ought to just get the money back. So the FCC is investigating him, but the mainstream media is not talking about this. In 2019, the group briefly halted its operation, though they appear to have resumed since then. So you figure out, here's a guy, he's been around. Is this hurting his name? Because he's been there for us, supposedly. So what we're doing for him, he's doing it for somebody else. And in his organization, he's also paying the people a salary. Go back to when Sanders was talking about Hillary Clinton and their foundation and the nerve of them to have a foundation while they're running, and where's that money to that foundation coming from? Well, we know it's not coming from Bernie Sanders because the money to Bernie Sanders is going into his organization or his wife's organization. But if you don't believe me, look it up. You go to FCC, get on their website, and you can look up candidates and who are supporting them. We need to know where the money is going that we give to these candidates to go out there and run. And when you have candidates like Bernie Sanders, who's been there for decades, they're talking about investigating Biden. Well, now also they should start investigating Sanders. Wow, is there any honest politician, not just in Washington, but all across? And when you hear stories like this for people that you put your money into to support because they came at you and said, you know what, we need your help. And you find out that our help is going into their help, then there's no hope for any politicians. And it makes it harder for politicians, politicians, like yours truly and some of you out there, where you think you have the commitment, but you need the money. And my thing is every politician being bought out by money? The more I've dealt in political endeavors, the more I see, if somebody sees that you're honest, be prepared to take those hits. Because honesty, we may think is the best policy, but crime to some people does pay. But my thing is, eventually, you'll get caught. So one of the most disappointing news that I've heard, and maybe a lot of other people out there who are independent thinkers, Bernie Sanders should just step down. And if he's investigated, he should pay it back, go to jail, do whatever he has to do to make it right. But when we get this news, we don't get it from mainstream media, we get it from streaming services. Then this also shows you, because I've been looking and I have not seen any mainstream media talking about this story. We've got the Biden story out there, we got the Trump story out there. But right now, here's a big story, $200,000. This money being given to this foundation run by Bernie Sanders' wife and stepson, that we as American people have given Sanders the money to get him to where the place he's at now. And now, in his eyes, he's at a good place, but being caught, it puts you at a bad place. So please, Bernie, just step down. I'm Anthony Parker Alexander, keeping it honest.